Welcome to Anything Cricket. Let's talk. Yesterday, Jamaica captured the T20 segment of the women's regional competition, following a very eventful day when Barbados lost to Trinidad and Tobago. I had a chat with former Cricket West Indies director Deighton Smith. He shared his views on the tournament, the success of the Jamaicans, the performance of Barbados, and the way forward for Barbados cricket. Tomorrow is the start of the test series between Bangladesh and West Indies. The first test to be played in Antigua. The second will be played in St. Lucia. We're going to preview that series, particularly the first test. We're going to be joined by Roland all the way from England. Omar Phillips will also be here along with me and Holden and myself. So, lots to look forward to on this episode of Anything Cricket. Let's talk. Well, always good to have Deighton Smith with us. Not always good in terms of the news that we are going to be discussing. And certainly this is a case where we would really have wanted to be discussing more pleasant news. But we've got to do what we've got to do. Congratulations to the Jamaica girls for winning the T20 competition. As Barbadians, we can only hope that the national team goes on to do a lot better, especially given their assignment coming up in, a few weeks. The Commonwealth Games, they would want to go with a higher level of confidence than they must have at this point in time. But I've said too much already, and I really don't necessarily want to expand on this topic. I'm going to leave that hard work to you, Deighton. Welcome.
Thank you, Philip, and good night to all of our viewers. Let me start by saying hearty congratulations to the Jamaica team. I watched some of their games, and I think they played very good cricket. They had their heart and their soul into what they were doing, and they were deserving winners. So whether we wanted a different outcome or not, we have to acknowledge the fact that they were deserving winners and congratulate them wholeheartedly. So well done, Jamaica.
Okay, what do you think made the difference, really? It's easy to say what the Barbados do wrong, but I am going to ask you, what do you think separated Jamaica from the rest?
Yeah. Jamaica had some players with experience at a higher level, just like Barbados did. And the Jamaican players who've played at a higher level at different points in the campaign, they all came to the party. The difference was that with Barbados, the only one who played at a higher level, who came to the party consistently and stamped her authority on this competition, was Hayley Matthews. And in that, there's a lesson for the Barbados administration. There's something for them to chew on. In that, if you take the final game where Barbados just needed to do well enough, not even to win, but well enough to maintain the kind of run rate they needed. They were beaten by a low score, and that is the one match in which Hayley Matthews did not come to the party, and there was no one else who could. And we are not talking about a challenging total. We're talking about a total just over 100. And so if I were in administration, and they don't have to listen to me, I have to say that, but what I would do is that I would ask myself, where is our future in terms of our batting? I regret to say that I have seen no evidence in the last 2 years that we've taken that matter seriously. But one hopes that if they sat down and looked at this tournament, that they would recognize that there's some serious work to be done in order to make Barbados a forceful batting unit going forward.
Okay, so the fact that Barbados in the end lost the championship because they were defeated by Trinidad, is there any significance to your mind in that reality? and the fact that Barbados just came off a series of matches against the Trinidad side?
Well, Barbados played a series of matches and they lost all. And there was not a single match in that series against Trinidad in which they were seriously competitive. Trinidad won all of those matches easily. So before we analyze why, I think it's important to understand the effect it would have had today. In that, if I was in the Trinidad team, I would have been brimming with confidence that we are capable of beating Barbados. And on the Barbados side, there were a lot of players in our team who did not do well in that series against Trinidad, and therefore there would not have been confidence in that team. No, the only significant difference between that team that was beaten by Trinidad then and this team that played today is Hayley Matthews. I give all credit to Hayley in that she carried this Barbados team on her back. She made major contributions in every game that we won until today. However, Hayley Matthews is a mortal. And we have to understand that we should not expect her to be more than a mortal. And today she only made 18. And the others could not find it within themselves to make a total just over 100. And I think all of the Barbados players need to have some introspection. I think especially our international players. Now, let me define international in their case. It means they've played international cricket. It doesn't mean that they're of international standard. I'm sad to say that we have some players in this team who especially in the batting side of things, who've played for a much longer time that I feel they deserve. And when they play at this level, you realize why they are not successful at the higher level. Because surely, in playing 5 matches, there ought to have been at least one occasion in which you could see that they have played at a higher level, and it shows. And the truth is, I did not see that in this tournament. So I think the Barbados coaching staff, the Barbados Board of Barbados Cricket Association needs to go back and think, how do we, in the next 3 years, build a batting unit that is good enough to win tournaments like this convincingly when Hayley Matthews does not get the job done by herself?
Talk about work that needs to be done, work needs to be done and so on. I have to wonder sometimes if there's a clear understanding what that work needs to be. When I hear people who are around cricket and administrators and others, even coaches sometimes, unfortunately, talking about cricket development or the improvement of cricket teams, they always talk about exposure and opportunities. And I hardly ever hear any meaningful discussion about actually teaching. In fact, I get the impression that there's a belief that what a cricketer, and this relates to the men as well, we talk about, I hear people talking about, and when I say people, I mean people close to cricket, be more than the fact that we've got players in their 20s and so on who have these poor techniques, and therefore the coaches that taught them at primary school or secondary school or the franchise or wherever are to blame. And I wonder if there's a belief or an understanding that people become statues when they reach a certain age. I think you can learn at any age. It is just that it may be more difficult. Some things may be more difficult to learn, but you can learn at any age. But you know what you need for that to happen, Deighton? You need people who understand how to teach.
Philip, I think this is a crucial issue in terms of how cricket in the Caribbean goes forward. Not women or men, but cricket generally. I am convinced from my own observations that we have to look very seriously at our coaching methods. And this is what I mean by this. I have stood up on many occasions and watched coaches in Barbados working with players. And there's no doubt in my mind that all of them have the training and the understanding to teach someone, here is how a cover drive is played. Here is how we play a flick. Here's how we play a hook shot. But when you go on a cricket field, compiling an innings is not simply an issue of knowing that there are some shots that I can play. It brings into play a whole series of other things, like judgment, like decision making, like understanding of the situation you are in. Like for instance, we have some players, especially in the women's game, but also in the men's game, who are international level. If you go back over their careers, you see they get out in similar fashions more often than you would like. So my question is, in terms of our coaching methods, what do we do to change that idea of simply repeating what you have done in the past? You are a person involved in education. You understand the whole idea of changing people's mindsets, changing people's approach, changing people's understanding of what they're trying to do. And I think when I look at our cricketers, I'm not convinced that we are going beyond teaching a person, this is how you call it, right? And by the way, if I stand in front of a player, and I see a lot of coaches do this, and drop a ball and let them drive it, there's a value to that. But however, that is a very different scenario than what you will face when you're in the middle and the ball is coming at you from 22 yards. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is, I think we need to look at our coaching methods and say, do we need to add some other dimensions to it? And I think the answer to that is yes. If you look at people like Shea Hope, who, as you know, is one of my favorite cricketers, but you find that a lot of our players have to find their own way and mature as a player when they become 28, 29, 30. They don't get there by virtue of a coach helping them to get there faster. They go and they fall down and they get back up and they make mistakes at international level and they learn, and then they mature as a player at 28, 29, 30. So either we as a collective group have to decide that we have to select players in that age group who have had that many years and that amount of experience. Mm-hmm. Or we have to look at our coaching methods and see how do we get them to develop to that level faster. You can't tell me, and the last 25 years shows it, you can't tell me that our coaching methods are getting them there, because it's not. So we have to be doing something differently to get them to develop faster. And this applies to both men and women.
Yeah, Deighton, the things that you mentioned, all the things you mentioned, building in innings, and the other things that you mentioned, can't repeat all offhand off the top of my head right now. They can all be taught.
Exactly.
So I'm when I talk about teaching, I'm not just talking about, as you put it, standing in the nets or standing somewhere and showing someone how to play a cover drive, although there probably is still need for that as well. But clearly it has to go beyond that. I'm trying to think of anything in cricket that cannot be taught. Now, obviously, cricket, like any other sport, there's no mystery about cricket. Cricket is like any other sport. There's no mystery. Okay. There are instinctive aspects, and it's that instinctive nature and the ability to make decisions on the fly, if you will, and to think maybe differently, that makes the difference sometimes between a good player and a great player. Mm-hmm. But there's certain basics that can be taught to anybody who is involved in the sport. And there are too many of those basics. And I'm not just talking about the ability to play that cover drive, as you made a reference to, but other basic things like building in. That's a basic thing, because if you're a batsman, you're expected to build an inning. So that's a basic thing. And these things can be taught. I'm convinced that there are too many people around the cricket who don't fully understand the whole process of teaching and learning. And I think this is a large problem, because I'm not hearing the narrative coming from them.
But here's my response to that. Mm-hmm. You said it can be taught, but do we teach it?
We see no evidence of it.
Here's a simple example. I've seen players, there are two of I can think of in the women's game for sure, who drive the ball beautifully, and usually straight to fielders, and sometimes, unfortunately, straight to fielders in the air. But I question whether when we are coaching these people, do we teach them that if I drive a ball to extra cover and the next ball, I open my wrist a bit, the ball will go to the left of extra cover. And if I close my wrist a bit, the ball will go to the right of extra cover. And you are an educator, so you understand what I mean by the word teach. I don't mean say it to someone. Teach means that I communicate it and they understand it and they can put it into practice. I haven't done my job as a teacher until I am satisfied that they can execute what I just told them. I'm not convinced that our coaching is showing that in the Caribbean. And let's look across the whole Caribbean, Philip. There were a number of years where we had a lot of players coming out of the Leeward Islands that, for instance, that looked like they had some kind of talent. And yet the Leeward Islands team was noted for making a good score today and collapsing tomorrow. So again, were they benefiting from the level of coaching that I'd like to see? Or not, I think every West Indian would like to see. And I picked on the Leewards purely because I think there have been some players who had some prospects there that perhaps weren't realized. But the reality is that happens all across the Caribbean. We have, if you look at young Chanda Paul from Guyana, for instance, he has recently been doing extremely well, but he's been around for a very long time. And he always showed promise, but he's never had a season like this. Now, my question is, why does it take us so long to get a player to this point? And I wanted to specifically translate that to the women's game. Why is it that we're taking so long to get players to the level that they're capable of reaching? And I'll give you two examples at the opposite end of the spectrum that show what I mean. Shadeen Nation played for the West Indies for a very long time and was a very unsuccessful batsman in terms of productivity of runs, average, etc. And the last 2 years, you can see she's batting in a different way at a different level. And in this tournament, she made a significant contribution to Jamaica's success. Now, Shadeen Nation is now at the end of her career. She's, I think, 36 or 37. Why does it take us so long? And I want to give you a different example. Yesterday, I watched a heartbreaking match. Well, yes, 2 days ago. Yes, 2 days ago.
You watched a heartbreaking match, yeah, recently?
Yeah, with the Windward Islands, where young Zeta James from St. Lucia, left-handed batter, 17 years old, took her team to the brink of victory and lost in a heartbreaking way at the end of the game because she turned for a second run and she was called for one short. And they lost the game by 1. But at 17 years old, she carried them on her shoulders. What I fear, Philip, is, are we going to get Zeta James to realize her potential in the next 2-3 years, even 4? Or is she going to become a capable batsman at international level when she's 33?
But Deighton, you're saying we're expressing the same concern in maybe 2 totally different ways. Because you're saying it doesn't happen. Now, you use the example of a young player who is on the right pathway, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
And you're concerned that it may take a while for her to grow. And that all fits into what I'm saying, that I've reached a conclusion based on the narratives that I've been hearing from people who are involved, that those who are responsible just don't know what to do. And I don't say that to suggest that I know what to do in terms of the, what should I say? I'm not an international cricket coach, okay? But I understand development, I understand education, I understand the whole teaching and learning process. And therefore, I am convinced that there's a lack of knowledge or lack of understanding by those who are involved. I'll give you, I don't know if it's so much an example as maybe a slightly different spin. I've spoken to a number of young people who have been coached elsewhere, in Australia and in England especially. And they all share the same thing. That is that when they go to training, they have more than a significant input in what they do. Now, there's a basic principle that any teacher would know, that if your student buys into what is happening, you're going to get more out of that student than if you come and you determine that this must be done, it must be done now, it must be done this way, and so on. And while sometimes you have to follow, let's say, a curriculum to reach a particular goal, as a good teacher, you need to get your students to understand why they're doing something. And if you're not preparing them for an examination where they have to be tested on specific things at a specific time, why would you want to come and dictate exactly what must happen today? Then that player may very well have another concern that he or she is ready to address. And you as a teacher, you've lost out on that readiness, so to speak. So that's just one aspect of it that tells me, or that makes me wonder if the people who are responsible for these players really understand the whole process of development and how it is achieved.
Well, here's how I respond to that in two ways. One, I'm appealing to those who are in charge of our coaching programs. I don't mean coaching teams, I mean developing coaches.
Yep.
To have a look at this and say, what can we do to accelerate the development of our players? That's one. But secondly, I'm asking our administration to look at what they can do differently to assist in that process. And I'll give you an example. One of the people I've been watching for many years is Casey Carty. And I'm so happy to see him now playing in the senior West Indies team after catching my eye in the 2016 World Cup that the West Indies won.
Yep.
But again, why has it taken him from 2016 to 2022 to make it into the senior team when the senior team has been struggling? It's not as though they've been world beaters.
But then before you go any further, if you look at his numbers, he would not be an automatic selection either.
No,
so you're looking at a player. So you're looking at a player who got into the team. One would assume because there were others who may have been performing better. Omar said he was unavailable, for example.
Right.
So you had a player getting in that way, and not that I have a problem with him being there. I share your joy at his presence. But what I'm saying is, were it not for that, he still wouldn't be in the team, and he would still be at that stage between 2016 and now. So even although he's in the team, it's always by chance.
Here's my issue.
Yeah,
Casey Carty was a key part of the West Indies winning the Under-19 World Cup. He wasn't just any other member of the team. He played a key role in us.
If I'm not mistaken, he was man the match in the final or something like that. If he wasn't man the match, he
was certainly there at the end of the game and took us through a very difficult period and played a brilliant innings. My point is, since then, from a coaching perspective and from an administrative perspective, what have we done to develop Casey Carty? That's my point.
Okay.
Why you don't have to convince his numbers better? What have we done to improve his numbers? And the answer is I can't see it. And while I'm on that subject, I wanted to also tell you there's something that made me very happy about this women's tournament. For a long time, I've been saying that the winners and the leavers have particular challenges, and that West Indies cricket will be stronger when they are able to solve some of those challenges.
Yeah.
You will recall the times when the leavers produced Viv Richards and a host of other. We always talk of Richards, but there was a host of other
some couldn't make the team.
Some who didn't really West Indies team, but who are much better than some of the players we have now.
Guy like Jim Allen, for example.
Exactly.
Ralston Otto, those guys.
There you go. Otto was a tremendous player. And my point I'm making is this. In this women's tournament, the Windward Islands need to be commended, and I'll tell you why. Prior to this tournament, I'm aware that they did some serious work in trying to get their team prepared by playing against some other teams. They brought a team from the US down here to play against them, etc. And here's the result. I mentioned Zeta James, who I believe with the right management, and I have to stress that, the right kind of management, has what it takes to become a good international player. But they also have an opening bowler by the name of Glasgow, who has a beautiful approach to the wicket. Phillips. If you love cricket, you will enjoy watching this lady bowl. And I'm saying they've made an identifiable effort, and it has produced some results. I can see two players at least who are players that we can work on for the future, especially seeing that the West Indies team needs some work going forward. And so I want to give them kudos, but I also want to say, are we going to lose them like we've lost some of the others? Not lose in the sense that they will never play a game, but it will take them 10 years to realize their full potential.
Well, Deighton, that's $1 million question. I think we both know the answer to that unless there is some maybe coaching education or maybe a different way of doing things, what is happening now will continue. We've got to run, but just before we go, let me share with you. You may recall Bonner and Nkrumah Bonner,
yes,
coming into the West Indies side, doing well in Bermuda, in Bangladesh, and then coming home. And he had an innings, I think it was just one innings really, where he didn't do well. And he said that he checked his coach, another coach.
Who's not a member of the West Indies setup.
And some people had a problem with that. And well, so far, Bonner has been able to continue to contribute. So that's just something to think about. I'm not going to make any big pronouncements surrounding that, but it's something of interest that we can think about. But time is against us, Deighton. So we're going to have you back again as the tournament continues, because the T20 phase is only that one phase.
Yes,
of the tournament
coming up.
And there's a lot more women's cricket to talk about. Thanks again, Deighton, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good night.
Good night to you. Well, I'm in good company, as usual. Omar Phillips, Roland Busher, all the way in England, is with us. And of course, so too, Wayne Holder. Well, what's the weather like, first of all, Roland?
First of all, good night to you, Philip, Omar, and Wayne. The weather today was very good, actually. Last couple of days, sunshine, cloudy, quite chilly. But we are in Chesterfield, Derbyshire, which I don't think in my entire career I've played many times in this area, that I've had full days of sunshine. It's always a little bit gloomy. But this afternoon, up to when the game finished, was perfect weather. I mean, brilliant sunshine, just white clouds, blue sky. And as you know, Philip, it doesn't get dark really up here until about 9-10 o'clock at night. So you could imagine when the game finished, and it finished a bit early with Derbyshire winning, that the weather was fine.
Okay, so you're talking about Derbyshire. That's the game that you would have covered. So tell us about your exploits covering the, I think it's the T20 Blast you're covering?
No, I did. I was covering the county championship.
The county championship.
This was a 4-day game between Derbyshire and Middlesex, and it was won by Derbyshire. And really, you know, the one player of quality in this game really stood out was Shan Masood from Pakistan. Really a top-class player. I mean, he's nearly scored 1,000 runs already. He's 9 runs short when he got out today. Got 96 or 98. In about 10 innings, he scored 300s, included 2 double hundreds, and a single in that period. So, and he was out on 96 on, I think, twice so far. So he's in a rich vein of form. Left-handed opening batsman, and you know, you must keep an eye out for this guy. He's quality.
Is he their overseas player?
Yeah, he's the overseas player. Opening batsman, left, and you know, lovely to watch.
Roland, I know you've been busy covering the county cricket, but if I know you, you also kept in touch with the Test match, and it really was a Test match of Test matches, wasn't it? England coming from behind to record a victory, a Test match victory, and a series victory over the world champions New Zealand.
Yes, it was a very good Test match, and obviously England getting the win and winning the series. Again, you know, New Zealand really collapsed in the second innings, and that was the problem. It just left England a total, 290 odd to get, which, you know, if you bat well, the pitch was still playing well, was always going to be possible. But I think really the highlight for this series, for this Test match, really, are the two guys that everybody wants to drop, even here in England. Pope and Bairstow are the two that they have been hammering and should be in the team, etc., etc. One gets 145 and the other gets 136 in a winning cause. So I'm looking forward to reading the newspapers tomorrow just to see what they have to say.
Roland, to say that Bairstow got 136 in a winning cause is as gross an understatement as I've ever heard. That man just hammered the ball into all parts of the field as though they were under primary school boys bowling underhand. What was that about? Did that surprise you? The manner in which he played?
Not at all. I mean, I certainly was not one of the people who figured or thought that Bairstow should be dropped, because remember, two test matches ago, whatever, Bairstow got 100 in the West Indies. He can't be that bad, in one test match, because in between the West Indies series and the game today, there was just the first test match. He came straight from the IPL into the test series, no county matches, and that innings today really should shut a few people up and maybe guarantee him a place in the team for a little while.
To what extent do you think the change in management, the change in captaincy, affected not only the outcome, but the manner in which it came about? Because those of us who believe that had Root been captain, and this is not to say from my perspective that he was a bad captain, good captain, or an indifferent captain, but I firmly believe the Joe Root that I got accustomed to seeing, that set 299 for victory, I suspect Joe Root may have taken the approach of maybe let's play for a draw.
Well, I'm not. I don't really believe that that's the case for it. We tend to forget that England are competitive in England. England of late, their problem has been when they travel, and at home, they will give anybody a game, even with a weakened side. So, I really expected that New Zealand would not have an easy series against England, even though before that they'd won one game in 17. But
you do admit that there are very few teams that chase down 299 runs in less than a day.
Well, true. But I mean, if the pitch is good enough, then you can do it, and the pitch obviously was good enough to do that. At home, England are not an easy side to beat. And as we know, always Anderson and Bros are always going to play, even though they missed the series in the West Indies. I always believed that they would play the series here in England, because in these conditions, they're the best bowlers. But it is what it is. I think England will take the wins because, one win in 17 is not a good record for any team. Now they've won two back-to-back test matches, so they'll feel a lot happier. But again, when they have to travel, that's going to be the real problem for them.
Why is that, though?
Well, I think basically it is very simple. I mean, they know their conditions and know them well. If you're playing in these conditions every day, and don't forget, most of these guys were all first-class cricketers who've been playing here for a long time. And if you can't be strong here, where are they going to be strong? There has been a period where they were able to win series abroad, but obviously in the last couple of years, it has deserted them, and particularly, the batting. And it was really encouraging. I mean, going into this test match, just like they did in the Caribbean, people were concerned as to really what was going to be the 1, 2, 3 in terms of batsmen. Good to see Alex Lees come good. I mean, I saw him in the West Indies, and I thought he looked a good find. And he, in this test match, he's proven that yes, he's the man for that. But there was always a question mark about the second opener and who would bat number 3. So they really were taking a punt on the other opening batsman and on putting Pope at number 3. And it certainly worked out for them. Will it work out going forward? Who knows? But it certainly gave them a good opportunity. At home, I think they'll compete against all the teams.
How good is Potts?
Potts, I think he's typical English bowler. Again, you'll have to see how he goes away from home. Here, he hits the same, and if conditions are right, he will do well. But I'm not saying he's anything special. He's no Joe Archer. He's nobody like that. I think he's right for the conditions here. He may prove me wrong when they go and play on the subcontinent or in Australia or something like that. But at the moment, he's just another English seam bowler, really.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts, Roland. You're on the spot, so that has even greater significance for us. But we're not letting you go just yet. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the upcoming test match between West Indies and Bangladesh. So, Roland, we're going to bring you home. So in a short while, the West Indies will be taking on Bangladesh in the test match. And, I suppose there's that air of anticipation, gentlemen, as you always have when there's a test match around the corner. So much white ball cricket around, and just concluding a white ball series against Pakistan, that didn't go too well. So are you any more optimistic now about West Indies' chances as we move into the red ball format, Roland?
Well, listen, we are going to be a team that's going to struggle for a while because we do not have, like some of the teams, 3 or 4 quality players. And to be a good team, you need to have some good players. We've got a lot of players that are pretty much the same. They're not outstanding batsmen, they're not outstanding bowlers. I think in the red ball game, for me, I'm concerned not just in the team, but around the Caribbean, we don't seem to have a lot of out-and-out fast bowlers. All the teams really have got faster bowlers than we've got, and that has to be a concern because West Indies made its name on the back of fast bowling, and now we cannot find those sort of fast bowlers anymore. That really, for me, is the real issue, and that's a real problem that needs to be solved. We have to find a way to either develop or find guys with, express pace. India finding them at will.
Omar, are you as concerned about Roland going into the test match against Bangladesh?
Very much so. Especially playing first game, we're going to Antigua. I think for me, you play teams like that, I always say carry them to the quickest pitches, but I don't set the schedules. Looking at Bangladesh now going back to their experienced players. They brought back experienced players, so that means they're coming looking to win the series. Our players need to step up. The squad who starts in the first game, very important to get off the ground running. We got in terms of ball and tap, and then no holder in the series makes it even a deeper hole because they're going away from an experienced player who tends to come and get wickets, especially in the test game, especially in Antigua. He seems to find a way. When I agree with Roland on the fact that all the players like for like, same. So you could put the names at the moment in a hat and pull one and see how it goes from there. Nobody, especially the opening pair, we haven't settled yet. We're going back and forth. We still haven't found a solid opening pair partner to go with. Craig, I think he should be concerned because you got to know your partner. You got to know who you're traveling with. Especially every series, somebody different. So it's like recycling, picking back up players and what's not.
I don't know if the selectors would agree with you though, Omar, about the opening partnership. Clearly, the young man Campbell is the option that they prefer. You had a situation where Campbell was dropped and Solazana, averaging 23, was selected. not the same selectors, granted. That caused some concern among us because we figured, well, look, if this guy only averaging 23 at first class level, what's going to happen when he steps up? But we never got to find out. Since then, we've had Chanda Paul, who has shown phenomenal form playing in the. Yeah, sorry, Chanda Paul. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been overlooked. So if you were gonna, on the one hand, as a region, you're going to Solazano, who clearly wasn't. There's nothing that he had done that should suggest to us he was prepared for that task. I know you've got Chanda Paul, who has shown tremendous improvement in form, and we're not trying to take advantage of that form. It tells me that we have a lot of confidence in Campbell. That's what I'm saying.
I think the main factor is going back to that he played more games, and they're looking at the experience part of it. Because at the moment, averaging 23 as a test opener, it's not fitting in people's eyes, and I think a lot of Caribbean.
You're talking about Campbell or Solazano?
This Campbell.
Okay.
So for me, this series would have been the perfect opportunity to go. I always liked him playing against him. Show some serious concentration powers, and he showed in the last couple of games in first class that he got the ability to turn on the screws if he needs to. So it would have been the perfect series to give him a go. I'm not a selector, obviously. I sit on the other side of the table, but I think when we look at the patterns, if Campbell comes in this series and he feels he's going again, and then we go and recycle. So we keep going backward, forward, backward.
I won't call Chanda Paul a recycle because he hasn't been tried before.
No, I'm not talking about Chanda Paul. I'm talking about the options that we have.
Okay.
That we can look at in first class. How many openers in first class at the moment knocking on your door that you could say, like, I'll pick this guy tomorrow?
The openers who stood out to my mind, apart from Campbell, who got 1 or 2 scores, would have been Powell, who we tried time and time again, and of course Chanda Paul.
Yeah, there's, as I was saying, like the group, the pot very small, and that's cause for concern, especially in test cricket. You need 2 solid people at the top to support each other, to give that middle order a chance to really press on and make big scores. I think our batsmen in the middle order suffer to that expense, because by the time you look wrong, they're at the crease.
I am going to pull a Hartley Reid. I want to borrow a phrase from Hartley Reid. West Indies is a bad side.
You're not only born the phrase, you're born the expression too.
And I'm laughing, but I'm serious. When I say that, I mean, ours is a weak team when you compare to the quality of players that we have across the world. The West Indies team is a very, very weak team. And even against Bangladesh, I hold very little optimism. I am fairly pessimistic about this tour, even against Bangladesh.
But when this is a Bangladesh side that this group of players defeated a little over a year ago.
Yes, but like I said, they have never been very good travelers when they leave their home conditions. Traditionally, they haven't been very good travelers. It is notable, though, that they have shown some marked improvement of late. Don't forget the excursion to South Africa not so long ago, and they have been standing up and holding their own. I think it was against there was a tour. I think it was New Zealand. I think it was New Zealand also that they did particularly well. Yes, Roland?
It was 1-1.
Right, they drew a series with New Zealand in New Zealand, So what I'm saying is that this Bangladesh said, and Omar made the point, lots of experience in this team. I mean, the likes of Tamim Iqbal, Shakib Al Hassan, Mushfiqur Rahim, and that crowd, the captain Momin Al Haq. These are players who I remember seeing sometime at the turn of the century. A few of them playing in the Bangladesh A teams coming down to the Caribbean. And these are men now who have been through it all at the international level. And they have been able to also uncover a couple of Roland's favorite fast bowlers, bowlers who have been able to hold their own at this international level. So I be honest with you, a West Indies team without Jason Holder, and it's looking likely to be also without Kemar Roach. That is going to have serious implications for our penetration as a bowling unit against Bangladesh side on what is normally, from what we saw in the last test match played at Antigua, a very bland surface, very, very difficult to get wickets or for any assistance for bowlers. So, and our attack is looking rather tame, I would have to say, particularly if Kemar Roach is not available. So I don't hold out I am not holding out a lot of hope for this series for the West Indies.
Rather tame and possibly rather tired as well. Seals and Joseph coming back from Pakistan.
But I think that the only thing that they will be tired is with the jet lag of flying from Pakistan back to the Caribbean. These are young men, young professional cricketers.
That's what I meant.
But these are young professional cricketers who are expected to be up and about and ready to take up the task. It would be interesting, though, these two names that you just called, Seals and Joseph, I think this, particularly Alzari Joseph, this is going to be something of a watershed for him. Alzari Joseph reminds me somewhat of a Shea Hope. He has done excellently in the ODI game, has done very, very well. Look at his record and you will see he has been one of the leading wicket takers in white ball cricket over the past year or so. But somehow or another, when it comes to the first class game, and I thought the test game particularly, he has never been able to really shine and get over just being above ordinary. And the same thing we say about Shea Hope. I mean, it boggles the mind of a number of fans how a man can do so well when the color of the ball is white, and as soon as you put a little color into that white, he seems to be just another ordinary player. So Alzari Joseph, I think he will be charged with coming to the fore as one of the leaders of this particular attack. Know that we would not have Jason Holder. We wouldn't have Jason Holder. And I don't know, from all indications, it seems that we may not have Kemar Roach for the first test.
Preparation. Was it ideal preparation, gentlemen, to have so many of the test players in a white ball series in Pakistan? And if you're going to be very blunt, you would have to say they didn't necessarily strengthen the team any more than anybody else would have had they gone with other options.
Well, Philip, listen, it didn't do England any harm, did it? Johnny Bairstow came in and scored a big 100 today. He's only been playing white ball, right? So sometimes, too much is made of.
But Johnny Bairstow was playing from the first test. He didn't get back to England. He didn't get back to England a couple of hours before he scored his century.
But before the first test which is only last week.
But how well did he do in the first test? I don't recall.
He was playing IPL.
Yeah, but that may explain why he didn't do as well in the first test and why they were called to drop him.
But can you turn it around just like that in one game? The fact
I don't know.
The fact is that he has had no red ball cricket leading into a test.
Johnny Bairstow may be a better player than some of the players that we're talking about.
Well, I mean, he's not the only one that's been involved in the IPL, but I think sometimes we make too much of this.
So in other words, you have no issue basically with the fact that the guys were playing a one-day international up to a few days ago in Pakistan and now have to be ready for that. You have no issue with it.
No, the point I'm trying to make is that that if you're good enough, you will make the adjustment.
Okay.
And it's as simple as that. Because this modern day, that one day you could be in Pakistan, the next day you could be in England, or the next day you could be. That's how it is right now. You don't have any long series.
If you're good enough, Omar, are they good enough?
You'll find out whether they're good enough. Up to now, it's shown that we're perhaps not, because we have not been able to translate from white ball into red ball cricket and be successful. So, there has to be question marks there.
Okay.
All right. A valid question, though, would be who is better? I would think.
Better than who?
Who's better?
You said if these guys are good enough to leave Pakistan playing white ball to come and jump straight.
I didn't see any benefit really in taking Seals to
better than them.
I didn't see any benefit in taking Seals to Pakistan personally.
Probably if you look at it, and he was on tour and they were doing personal work with him or whatever.
Personal work that couldn't be done here?
Being with his squad. Yeah, well, if he with his squad, you never know, facilities and stuff out there different compared to what we have in the Caribbean. How I look at it.
Okay, fair enough.
Probably facilities. So the coaching staff there would have been able to work with him closely. So I think that's one of the reasons. Because we got other sides that
there was a time when the argument used to be that your best cricketers will play in the team, whatever the format.
No, I'm not worried about cross format selections. I'm simply talking about the timing in terms of the time. In other words, had this one-day series been completed 2-3 weeks ago, I would not be asking these questions.
But it's still one of the better bowlers in the Caribbean. Does he make any cricket team the West Indies going to select? When you're picking your best players,
you're talking about Seal.
Does Seal make your best team?
I think that Seal is, I would have to say, young enough that one could try to mold him into what one wants. I don't believe that at this stage he is such a valuable asset in white ball cricket that you can't pick a white ball team without him. I think that I can't dispute what Omar shared in terms of facilities and I can't speak to that. But for me, if he has been identified as the bright spark in our fast bowling department moving forward, then I figure that he should be treated that way. And with a home test series, therefore, I figured that everything should be done to get him ready. Not only him, but if he's going to be the leader, let's say, obviously, Kemar Roach is the experienced person and the father figure. Whether he plays or whether he doesn't play, if he's still there. But in terms of the energetic fast bowler who maybe you're going to use to shake up the opposition, to use your word, Wayne, the enforcer, so to speak, I would think you want to make sure that this guy is ready for the job. And it's not just a matter of picking teams to play all around the world, but sitting down and planning how you're going to utilize your resources. But, I may be a bit old-fashioned where that's concerned. But I actually thought that was why teams actually started picking white ball teams and red ball teams and T20 teams and 50-over teams so that you manage your resources. If you're simply going to say, well, we can pick our best 11 regardless of the format and regardless how much time there's between matches, then why have two different teams?
I really don't want to prolong the discussion, the argument, but how much cricket has Seal played? I mean, Seal didn't play in the IPL. Seal wasn't playing any cricket anywhere. Seal was only in the Caribbean sitting down. He got up, he went and he played a couple of 10-over matches, and he came back to the Caribbean. I can see any harm.
So therefore you've answered the question. You don't see an issue with it. My issue with it is not a question of him being young and therefore he doesn't get tired. We know young people can do all sorts of things that when you and Omar are no longer able to do.
Well, I don't think Omar would take very kindly to that.
Okay, I think Omar can take a bit of stick, but you know where I'm coming from. I'm saying it's not just a matter that is physically beyond him. What I'm saying is the type of preparation that one would put into a test match is that the way to do it? Now, Omar shared something that I can't refute. That is that the training resources may be better where they were than here. I can't speak to that. If that is so, then it makes sense to me. If that is not so, it doesn't. But I first of all, then understand that I know that I stand alone on these things. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. The results will show that we do a lot of things wrong. So it's not a matter of Philip versus Wayne versus Omar or Roland. The results usually speak for themselves.
It's neither here nor there. It's just as far as I'm concerned. There is no harm whatsoever in taking Genesis on that trip to New Zealand and I mean to the Netherlands and Pakistan, and then him coming back here to play in a 2-test series against Bangladesh in the Caribbean. That's just my take on the matter.
And it's not only your take, it's obviously the selected state. So, you're not saying anything that is profound or anything that is unfamiliar. It is obviously the selected state. And what I'm saying is that I've been in enough of these types of conversations about the way we do things. And the results show. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that you should change your view. It is obvious that we differ on that, and that's fine. But what I'm also saying is that the results tend to show our shortcomings. I think Omar wanted to jump in there. It was Omar who was saying something.
No, I was just gonna think with the fact that also with I think Anderson was on that tour as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were about 5 or 6 players who are over there who are playing in the test match.
It could have been a way to get them a bit of match time because remember much wasn't really going on in Caribbean as well. So being able to bowl in the nets as well will help because molding the skills and what's not rather than being over here probably watching time goes.
So in other words, it was a form of preparation for the test series. Fair enough. Yeah. All right, guys. So with that excellent preparation, then are we optimistic of a good outcome then?
Well, I've already stated I am not very optimistic.
Despite the preparation.
But I don't like that's a non-issue.
The preparation is a non-issue, then?
No, what you're talking about is
I'm talking about preparation. I'm talking about preparation generally, then.
These guys going to Pakistan.
But you say you don't. But then you were the person pursuing that. We moved past that long time. I'm saying to you, given the preparation,
the preparation was done in Pakistan and New Zealand and the Netherlands.
Okay, so as far as you're concerned, that's the only preparation then that was done.
That was part of the preparation.
So let me put this question to Omar because I think you're getting a bit confused here. Omar, given our preparation, what do you expect in the test match?
I mean, that first test should be interesting. I said everybody in our side has an opportunity to prove themselves. Got a lot of, especially with the same skills that we spoke about. He has the opportunity to become one of the leading bowlers. Azari, who always loved the guy. I think he got a lot to offer, but always falling short in the red ball format. But this is his series now with Roach and Hold Up missing from the first test. He has to raise his hand, has to hit the ground running. He can't say no more. He's in the back line. He's on the front line now. In terms of the batting, I think Bonner again is our leading batsman in that front. Craig got a big job to play as a skipper. But looking at Bangladesh's side, bringing back those experienced players and having me myself played against them, I know how the guys love to win. They don't take nothing else than that for themselves. And that's an approach I think we need to find, that fire in your belly to don't ever want to lose. And fight to the last ball, regardless of the outcome. They put their all into it. You can see it in the emotion they carry, the way they represent that flag. And that's what West Indies gotta come out on that first. From the warm up, the intensity gotta be on the next level. Show them they come in my yard. You come in to be uncomfortable, not to be, or this is a honeymoon, come have some cake and have a beer and see you later.
Roland, Devon Thomas and Raymond Reef are among the players named. What sort of part or role do you expect them to play, if any?
Well, obviously they've been selected because of performances in the first class game. So on that basis, obviously they warrant their selection. Now they've got the opportunity, the same as anyone else, to, if they get into the team, to try and, forge a situation where they can stay in the team. So, it's a good opportunity for them. They have deserved it by virtue of scoring runs in first class cricket. It's been a limited season, obviously a truncated season, but they have shown that, that they can score runs. So really it's up to them. Just stepping into your discussion earlier, Philip, in relation to preparation, you have to accept. When I say you have to accept, I'm not speaking about you, Philip. I'm speaking about anybody.
I would hope not.
Cricket, not just in the Caribbean, but around the world. You have to accept that in these days, preparation time for all teams are going to be fairly limited because, you just don't get a lot of time in between series. And when there are series, you come in. If you're lucky, you play one game against a on-the-strength side and you go into the series. That's how it is. That's how it's going to be. West Indies this year are going to find themselves not having a lot of time to prepare because they're having to cram in 2 or 3 series that were cancelled in the last couple of years through COVID. So, you're going to find that you're going to go from series to series with not a lot in between. Get used to that. That's the way it's going to be, not just this year, but that's.
But it's either get used to it or be creative. When do you think the batting is settled?
Actually, you mentioned 2 names there. I don't know if I may be jumping the gun somewhat, but of the 12 names that I have seen, the selectors call up, I expect that one of the 2 of them will play.
Only one, you mean? Only one.
Only one of those 2, Reefer and Thomas. I expect only one of those 2 will play in the when I look at the 12 that have been selected. I want to sneak in this one though. I want to ask about 2 players who are not named in this squad. We talked about Holden, we talked about Roach. Is it notable that against Bangladesh, against whom he has done very well, gentlemen, no Shannon Gabriel? Roland, Omar? Roland, you take this one. I got one for Omar.
I would imagine there's a fitness worry. Otherwise, Shannon would be there. Otherwise, that's the only reason why I believe that he wouldn't be there, and perhaps the lack of cricket that he's had of late. So, otherwise he's easily the fastest bowler. I mean, he's, and in a team that is short of experience within the fast bowling stocks, it must be a very good reason why he's not there.
And Omar, Ian Bishop, none other than Ian Bishop, is on record as being quoted as saying that he is disappointed that Akil Hussain has not been named in the test squad to be, and that he sees him going forward to be somewhat of an all-format that particular topic.
That might be a country thing. I think he got what it takes to come in and play, but I don't think as yet. With Moti being in his squad, I always felt like he should have been pushed a long time ago. Having played against him and seeing him play, he has, to me, more to offer in terms of the variations and stuff. Akil probably, to me, suit more the longer.
Actually, Bishop was suggesting that they should both have been in the squad. He didn't say one or the other.
Well, as Philip mentioned earlier, I'm not a selector.
No, I'm not asking you to be a selector.
Omar, you sound as though you're trying your hardest to make sense of nonsense.
No, Omar, you have posited your view. You have the view that Hussain is not right for the red ball game at this point in time. You didn't say ever.
I'm not saying that he can't play because he played first class and he got wickets as well. But for me, you need something with a difference.
I was just making the point that Bishop didn't make the point of one or the other. He said both of them. Roland, my quick question. With Moti and just the one spinner named in this side, has Jamel Warrican and Raheem Cornwall come to, as Boyce II said, the end of the road?
Well, as far as Bishop is concerned, but the question was for Roland, so I'll leave that alone.
I wouldn't say they'll come to the end of the road because we don't have 6 or 7 spinners queuing up to take their places. So, those guys will get an opportunity because as it stands right now, we do not have outstanding international spinners. We've got guys now who are going to try and make their way into the game. So there's always going to be an opportunity for Cornwall and for Warwick to get back into the side. Now, if somebody gets the opportunity, like say Moti, and he grabs it, and he's taken a lot of wickets and becomes a very, very good bowler, then it puts a lot more pressure on those guys. But as it stands right now, I think they're still very much in the ball game. And have you forgotten completely about Pomor?
Well, he's also on that list.
But Roland, if you allow me though, I think Roland is on to a good thing there. But let me rephrase that. I think what Roland is saying carries a lot of weight when one considers how the selectors have treated spinners. Just a couple of test matches ago, Pomor picked up 5 wickets, if I recall correctly. Pomor was one of the successful spinners on the last tour of Sri Lanka, wasn't he? And he maintained his place ahead of the other spinners. None of the other spinners maintained their place. He maintained his place and played 2 test matches against England. Now he's out of favor. So where am I going with this? Unless there's something about Moti and his connections that I don't know, any performance that he puts down here against Bangladesh doesn't guarantee anything. We saw Warwick and Cornwall bowl West Indies a victory in Bangladesh. Warwick has hardly played since then. So I don't know if those are Roland's reasons, but I think that provides enough evidence to suggest that no one is safe, because it seems to me that if you're a spinner, if you're a fast bowler in the West Indies setup, you can fail some more, then fail again, and people call for you even if you can't finish a match without limping off. But when you're a spinner, you don't get 5 wickets every game. Look for the drop.
I reckon that's a thing that came from the past. Always,
which we're still living in.
Mm-hmm. We're still looking at the fact that two spinners can't play together, and we see other international sides do it. So it seems like we're missing the ball somewhere.
But unless I had two were rated left arm spinners, I don't think I would play 2 left arm spinners in the same match.
Yeah, well, we missed.
That's much I'm talking about.
Chase was around.
He's not.
Looking at that squad.
You mean around as in the squad?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought you knew something about Chase.
So when I say around, I mean in the squad.
In the squad, I got you covered. Mm.
So you go into a place like Antigua, if they remember, Spain was the more dominant force in the last couple of games. So it means that we didn't, other than something special has happened in the last couple of years, months since COVID, that we missed something about this one spinner is going to carry you through a series. Especially looking at playing against Bangladesh, they're good at playing spin. I think that probably could be one of the reasons is that it's meant we won. But for me, a strength sometimes could be a weakness. So you never know. Sometimes they got to gamble.
Yeah. Okay.
So are you suggesting then, Omar, that that there's a place for 2 spinners in the West Indies in that first test? If we had a chance to go back.
If I put on my captain, any side that I play, you must got 2 good spinners. Don't care who you're playing, where you're playing.
And would you, but as captain, forget all the politics and everything, Omar. You're the captain, decide for this test match, okay? And you have room for 2 spinners. Okay, no problem. Are you going to play 2 debutant spinners? Two debutant left arm spinners.
No, what if you look in his squad? They don't have two depth.
No, what I'm saying, I'm still going back to Vince's original question. Don't forget this question.
We would have had to be going towards a promote being there, or the work and the experience that played a lot, and then you bring in your debutant. Not two guys that started.
So this is why I'm relating. This is why I'm relating it to Vince's original question about Bishop's idea. And I think that the answer you gave in the first few seconds was all the answer that was required. Because I think people are afraid to be critical of what Bishop said because it's Bishop. Okay. But I think it's madness that you would think of having two debutant left arm spinners in the squad when you've got 3 or 4 other bowlers, spin bowlers around who have all done well for West Indies within the last 5-6 matches. I think it's crazy. I think that your initial response is probably the best response. It certainly is mine. Anything further, guys? Or
I want
Are we ready for the toss?
Go to win with the Devon Thomas. You think he's gonna start in the first test?
Well, right, as I said, I believe that one of himself and Rifu will play. I am not willing to preempt the selectors on that one. Call me the fence setter, the parental fence sitter.
Well, you're gonna have to do what do you call it when you're suspended at the end of the year?
But I will
because the fence is being removed, man. So you're gonna have to go in the tree.
I will prefer not to call that one. What I can say is that one of the two of them will not play.
I won't call it either for a different reason. I'm not going to call it because the thinking of the selectors may be far superior to anything I can come up with. So I'm not going to try to call it.
If you were going to ask me, if I was a selector, who I would pick? Because you asked me if I think that Thomas will play.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you this. I'm gonna ask you this question, although I know the answer.
I will go with Reefer.
Oh, I'm surprised. Okay, I'm surprised because I know you have a lot of time for Thomas.
I got the same view. Don't worry, man. He's been in tremendous form in the last couple times he played, and traveling with the team for so long and knocking on the door, but again the opportunity. Then he actually scored runs in a I think it was the President 11 match, or
he scored runs in virtually every match for Barbados and the President 11 game.
Correct. And then you know what I mean. It's only so much as guys knocking on the door, and we know how the Caribbeans work. Behind that door, got a steel cage. So it's only so much a guy can continue to knock in, and then you will hear that he playing for IPL. He don't care about playing.
I was just about to say. And we wonder why fellas, have other interests and other priorities. We wonder. Yeah. So yeah. Well, Roland, you've been quiet, but are we ready then for the toss, or is somebody wants to add?
Well, I think I'm quiet because it's time for me to head to my bed. I really need to be getting to bed shortly, but listen, what I would say, don't underestimate Bangladesh. Bangladesh have got some very good players. You only need a couple of good players who can change a game.
Yeah. So basically, guys, we expect a competitive test, but it seems to me as though the feeling in the camp here is advantage Bangladesh. Is that correct, Roland?
Well, I think Bangladesh would be, perhaps favorites because, I think their spin department is going to, give us a little bit of trouble. It has given us trouble before. And the fact that you've got Shakib Al-Hassan, who will bring a degree of control, he doesn't get, people don't dominate him. He's such a wily spin bowler that, if there's anything in the pitch, he's going to cause us serious problems. And, don't forget his ability to bat as well. So, he's a key figure for them. And as I said, they've got good middle order. Tamim at the top, if he's at his best, he can destroy a bowling attack. So don't think that Bangladesh are coming here and West Indies are just going to walk in and, and win. if they're going to win, they're going to have to play, their best cricket.
Closing comments, Omar?
Yeah, I agree with Roland. We got to fight hard. I still got on my West Indies cap, although as a hometown man, I always got West Indies win or lose. We are a team that full of surprises, continue to surprise teams along the way. Hopefully this could happen on day one and throughout the test match to get off the series. To those who gonna be debuting, whichever side of the fence right way. I wish them all the best. I know how it felt for me playing against Bangladesh for the first time. I hope that we could show the public what the young group can do, because it's only them that can do it. We can sit and talk all we want and what's not, but they got to carry the mantle. I'll be sitting on my fence and watching close.
Closing comments, man.
Well, I was leaving out the emotion. I think this is the best opportunity that Bangladesh will ever have of winning a series in the Caribbean. Ever since that time that Omar knows very well about, when they were really new to the Caribbean, I think this will be the best opportunity that they will have to win a series, like I say, to come out on top on the series in the West Indies. And like I said, from a purely cricketing perspective, I choose Bangladesh to come out on top.
And Bangladesh probably will be thinking that our spin stock must certainly be grand, because they wouldn't be facing any of the spinners that would have been part of their demise when they lost us at home. So that's interesting. All right. That's it, guys. We leave it now for the toss and see what happens after that. So, of course, we all, as West Indians, will be wishing the West Indies team well, but we know, or we expect, that it will be a pretty intense battle. Thanks very much, gentlemen. That's our show. Thanks for watching. Join us again soon for another episode of Anything Cricket. Let's talk.